Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a bit of a different video. We're going to be speaking about Wolves' squad next season, who I think is likely to be there, and the current state of play. And also a little bit, because I'm going to cover this in another video, but I'm going to be touching a little bit on how I think they'll set up tactically next season. So let's get straight into this one. Now, as you can see on screen, this for me is Wolves' starting lineup going into the Manchester City game. Now, I will do a video further down the line previewing that match. But this for me is the current state of play and who I think will be starting on that game against City. Now, you may be looking at this thinking, why is Lopez not there? Why is there not a new right back there? And that's because Wolves haven't signed one, to be quite frank. But I do also think Doherty will play. I think Mosquera may be on the bench as well. But I don't think he'll throw Mosquera straight in. I think he'll probably wait 3 or 4 games, to be quite honest, until we see Mosquera regularly in the team. But for me, this is the current starting 11 with every player that's currently at the club. And, you know, probably the most likely, to be honest. I don't see Wolves bringing in a right wing back anytime soon, to be honest, despite all of the links. But as I say, this is the bench as well. Now, that Gomez there is Rodrigo Gomez, and that Bueno there is Santi Bueno, because I don't think that Hugo Bueno will be at the club. Now, for me next season, I think this is the most likely team we are going to see when we go into the season. Now, I think the one thing that we obviously could see change next season, and I do hope we do see, is Mosquera stepping into here. Ultimately, I think that's probably where everyone wants to be seeing him next season. And eventually, I think Lopez will be replacing Marshall Monetzi in that right number 10 role. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because as I've said, if we just remove those two again, I think it gets extremely... hang on. We'll just remove those two again, and bring Doherty back. This will be the lineup for the Manchester City game. Now, is this a great lineup? Not really. Is it the lineup you want going into Manchester City? Not really. Do Wolves need more players? Absolutely. However, there is a lot to like about this squad tactically and this side tactically. Of course, for me, no real worries around these two, Totti or Agbadou. Wolfer, again, no real worries. I think he's definitely ready for the Premier League, so I'm okay and quite excited to see him. Again, these two, I mean, they're just everywhere, these two, aren't they? Let's be honest. They're here, they're there, they're everywhere. And yeah, I think Joao Gomez and Andre are absolutely brilliant, and I do think, you know, again, no concerns over them. For me, Jean Arias, again, no concerns over him as a player. I think he's really going to settle into this Wolves side. Obviously saw him score on his debut the other day. And Strand Larson for me. Now, they're the players that I don't have any reservations about whatsoever. Andre, Joao Gomez, Larson, Arias, Totti, and Wolfer. Now, the only reservation with Wolfer, potentially, is obviously the fact that we don't know how he's going to adapt to the league. Anyway, let's just look at Andre and Joao Gomez for now. I think these two as a midfield partnership are going to be, of course, Wolves' midfield partnership next season. What is the concern? The concern is ultimately that they get injured and you then replace them with the likes of perhaps Bellegarde or even Monetzi drops in there. I actually think that's the most likely thing to happen as well in terms of backup at the moment, because Wolves just haven't done anywhere near enough business in the midfield department. Now, as I've said, tactically, I think this is how Pereira will want to set up against City. Now, why is that? Of course, we know that Wolfer is going to be Wolves' starting wing-back. We are pretty confident of that. I don't think Bueno will be starting there come the season. I don't think he'll even be at the club come the start of the season. Totti Gomez, no one's displacing from that left centre-back role unless they do get their man this summer in Robert Renan, but I don't think that's going to happen this summer personally. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. Agbadou, I think, an absolute stalwart of the Wolves defence, and I think he's the player next season for me that's going to go to that new level, and everyone aside from Wolves fans will rate him. I do think that's going to be the case. Now, Jose Sarr for me is a concern, but I've said he won't be replaced this summer. It's definitely, you know, low down on the list of priorities. Now, in terms of setting up against Manchester City in that game, I think it's really, really interesting. Now, we're not going to use the exact players. We're just going to use markers for Manchester City at the moment, so we'll just add them to the tactics board. Now, Manchester City, in game state, probably will end up somewhere close to a 4-2-4, if we're being completely honest. Marmoush and Haaland playing together, I have absolutely zero doubts that they'll be doing that. Then you look as well, equally, Aït-Nouri will be in and around this channel, and that's why I kind of hope that Hervé isn't there next season, because I don't think he'll be able to deal with whoever it may be on that left-hand side, whether Marmoush is playing off the left again, as we saw last season. Doku notoriously had good games against Wolves, but Ryan Aït-Nouri will have absolute field day down that right side if Doherty and Hervé is the right-hand side going into next season. Now, I think it's really interesting from a Man City perspective because, as I've said, I think they will play somewhat close to this with Aït-Nouri very advanced and potentially if they bring Livramento in very advanced as well, but I don't think Livramento will be coming this window. Now, let's just move it back somewhat to what I think we could probably see. I think Reinders and Rodri will probably be the two in midfield. I'll be very confident of that. But in terms of Andre and Gomez, I actually fancy, as a duo, I fancy it a bit more. I think, that sort of, that steel that they've got. And actually, to be honest, we could not see Rodri at the start of next season, to be quite honest. We could see him not, eased in again and sort of not rushed into things. So potentially it isn't him. But in terms of Wolves in this game, I think it's very similar to last season. I think Wolfer will just be everywhere down this left channel. I think he'll be running outside his man. I think he'll be running inside his man. He'll be all over the place, just like that. He'll be inside. Say Arias is out there, he'll be inside, and he'll be outside of Arias as well. Now, in terms of as a player, I think Wolf is very exciting because I think Arias wants to be in these areas. Arias is one of those players that wants to cut in, wants to get into the box. And Wolfer is very much a player that wants to go on the outside of his man. So I think that's going to free up a lot of space for Wolves down that flank next season. And then, of course, Strand Larsen. Some of Strand Larsen's best movement, in my opinion, if we just move the goalkeeper back there, is in the 6-yard box. I think his movement's great. There's question marks over his finishing at times in really easy scenarios. But I think we'll see very similar to that, really. I think Menezes will tend to tuck in and around there when Wolves are attacking. And they'll almost flood the box with those two, almost as two strikers, really, at times next season. Now, when Fer Lopez comes in for Menezes, if we just change that quickly, I think it'll look very different to that. I think Wolfer and Arias will continue to do this on that side. This isn't just against Manchester City. This is, for next season when Lopez is comfortable enough to play in that side for Vitor Pereira. I think Lopez will be absolutely brilliant in these areas, similar to Pablo Sarabia, really, in terms of, he wants to cut in on that left foot. He wants to be tidy with his sort of slide rule passes and just his general intricacy. I think that's one thing that Fer Lopez and Sarabia have very much in common, so I'm excited to see him next season. But as I've said, going into the City game for me, it's Menezes, purely based off his work rate. I think it makes complete sense for him to be in this sort of side next season for Wolves, to be quite honest. And I do think, not necessarily against the lower teams, you want Fer Lopez, not necessarily away at Elland Road. I think you want Menezes for that. But in terms of you're away maybe at Burnley, probably the weakest side in the league, in my opinion, although they are doing some okay business. At home against Burnley, at home against Leeds again. I think in the home games, Lopez is the man. In the away games where it's a bit more tough, especially at the likes of Elland Road, St James's Park, I think Menezes is a more than valid option and people will kick off about that. I am well aware because technically he's nowhere near good enough really, but as I've said, his work rate is definitely key to how Wolves want to play next season. Now, these two, João Gomez, obviously they play on the opposite sides to what I've labelled them here, but just for the sake of it, Gomez is going to get advanced and pick up the ball in advanced areas and drive with it, as we saw for Arias' goal against Girona, where he got into this area and finished. But João Gomez is going to do a hell of a lot of that this season, and I think he's really going to make a difference for Wolves in the final third a lot more, because I do think he's going to have more onus on him if Menezes is that right number 10 for the start of the season, like I think he will be. So I think João Gomez has got a hell of a lot of responsibility in this side, but for me, he's probably the best player in this Wolves side, pound for pound, in my personal opinion. Let me know who you think is. But for me, João Gomez is the best player in this Wolves side. He's definitely been the best player in pre-season, and for me, I think next season he's going to be absolutely key to everything positive that Wolves do moving forward. Now, how does it look tactically when Lopez comes in those games? Now, for me, as I've said, Lopez will get into these areas. And one thing that I think I like about Lopez is, as I've said, he'll be able to find his man in here. He'll be able to also drift inside here and look for those gaps through here. And generally, he's also not afraid to take that shot from distance on goal as well. So generally, Fer Lopez for me opens up a lot of attacking potential for Wolves. And this is one thing I'm going to touch on, and people are not going to like this, but I must stress this. It probably won't be him next season. It probably won't be. But Keanu Herver, if he is playing, he will definitely get into these areas and will be really comfortable in crossing the ball low and hard. And that's one thing that I think is the reason why I've been less critical of Herver than others, is because ultimately every player that plays in the flank, whether you're a wing back or a winger or a 10, you need to build up that relationship with your number 9, and Herver's had numerous relationships with different number 9s at Auxerre, at PSV and at Stoke, and they all play in different ways, all the number 9s at those clubs at those times. And again, it's going to take some adjusting to, to play with Strand Larsen. So again, I'm not on to Herver as much as everyone else. Of course, I think Wolves should bring in a wing back, but equally, if Herver is a starting wing back, you can guarantee he'll be getting into these areas. The concern is the quality of the delivery, but as I've said, I think also that's to do with Strand Larsen's movement to an extent as well. And I do think in terms of that, they definitely have to build that relationship on the pitch, and it's something really that can only come on the pitch. Now, this was a bit of a different video, just basically briefing you on the type of videos that we're going to be doing moving forward. There'll be a lot more tactical breakdowns, tactical analysis, definitely throughout the season. Season previews against almost every team. We'll break them all down tactically and see what they're doing well, what they're not doing so well, where Wolves can be got at, where Wolves can also get at teams as well, and generally give a balanced opinion of how I think the game will go. Now, of course, this could massively backfire, and of course there will be weeks where Wolves do brilliantly and I've predicted them to do not so well. Equally, on the other foot, it could, on the other hand, it could go the other way. So I think it's very interesting going into next season. If you like these type of tactical breakdowns and the fact that we've got some new tactical analysis apps that we can use to try and get the best out of these videos and hopefully make them as enjoyable as possible for you guys, then do let me know what you thought about this video. This was just pretty much a taste test of what you're going to get throughout the season and something to give you a bit of a teaser as to what I'm looking to do with my content moving forward. You will be seeing a lot more of these tactical breakdowns included in player profile videos as well. So definitely stay tuned for them if you did enjoy this aspect of the video. And if you did enjoy this video, please like the video, comment on the video what you thought of the tactical analysis, the new setup, and of course the new style of video, and subscribe to the channel as well, as we are 20 subscribers away from 1,800 subscribers, and the goal is to reach 2,000 before the start of the 25-26 Premier League season. We don't have too long left, but I'm sure we can do it. Thank you very much for all your support, as always, and I'll see you in the next video.